try to intervene in these types of situations. Mixed signals coming out of Libya today. Reports today suggest the opposition is showing signs of more discipline with better organization and surveillance. At the same time, the rebels are echoing calls for a conditional ceasefire, something Gaddafi's forces have reportedly rejected. Congressman Mike Coffman is a Republican from Colorado, and he serves on the House Armed Services Committee. Representative, good morning.
Good morning.
I know that you have been highly critical, sir, of the White House leadership, but many Republicans think that the president did do the right thing by intervening. They say that he helped stop a humanitarian crisis without risking the lives of any boots-on-the-ground troops. What is your take?
Well, first of all, I've been critical of the Bush administration, too, in their conduct of both Iraq and Afghanistan. I think, first of all, for the president to say that this is not about regime change is not being honest with the American people. And for him to, for domestic political consumption, to essentially tell Gaddafi it's not about regime change. Our air operation is going to be in limited scope and duration, and we're not going to put boots on the ground, essentially told him that he could wait us out.
So then what would your plan be, sir? And would you include removing Colonel Muammar Gaddafi from power as being part of what you wanted to see happen?
Well, first of all, I don't think we should have gone in the first place, but I think Colin Powell said it best in the lead up to the to the Iraq War in 2003, where he said, I think words to the effect that if you break it, you own it. And I think we own it. And so I think that we're going to have to get with NATO and figure out what to do. I think it's going to be the inner circle of Muammar Gaddafi. When they defect, we have more defections, particularly those relevant to his maintaining power over the armed forces, that's going to turn the tide. And it's not going to be militarily done on the ground. But
Representative Coffman, you think we own this, despite the fact that in the last 24 hours of the 74 sorties that have been flown, only 10 were flown by U.S. fighter pilots, and word today is that NATO is taking over all the operations and that we are going to cease doing that in the fairly near future altogether. So does that mean you think we still own it after that point?
We are the backbone of NATO. The NATO is a U.S.-led organization. The Supreme Commander of North Atlantic Treaty Organization is an American general. You know, we provide, you're talking about tactical aircraft, but there's also the support elements. And the president has spoken about that the international community must step in and help the Libyan people once Muammar Gaddafi is gone. Well, that's nation building, and the U.S. is really the only country that has that capacity.
Can you tell me, sir, if you know where the tipping point is, and you may not, but is there something that you find to be a tipping point between a humanitarian crisis and something that does present a problem to our domestic national security? And in this case, do you know where that line lies?
Well, the president, first of all, read it wrong when he said that when he spoke to the American people and said in Iraq it's taken us 8 years to do regime change. No, it took us 3 weeks to do regime change. It was a humanitarian crisis that came about in the aftermath of that vacuum of power, and that's the problem that we're going to have here. In that the U.S. is, I think, going to have, unfortunately, a long involvement in Libya.
Okay. Well, we're going to see if that indeed comes true. In the meantime, let's switch topics here, sir, and talk to you about the budget battle on Capitol Hill. As you know, the president's budget is calling for $6.5 billion in spending cuts. The House passed for a bill for $61 billion in cuts. The Senate Democrats now appear willing to compromise about $33 billion. Weigh in on your thoughts on those numbers. Is $33 billion better than nothing?
Well, $33 billion is certainly better than nothing, but it doesn't put the country on the right trajectory. And I think that if we're unable to deal with really what in effect is small potatoes relative to the debt crisis that this country is facing, then I think the American people ought to be concerned. We've got the debate on raising the debt limit coming up after that. We've got the debate on next year's budget coming up on the heels of this. And so I think that what the American people really need to see is this isn't politics as usual in Washington, that elected leaders in Washington really get it and understand the magnitude of the crisis that we're in.
But wouldn't $33 billion right now at least be a stepping stone in the right direction? Then you could focus on the 2012 budget after that. And, you know, I mean, do you really think that you're going to get, with the art of compromise on Capitol Hill, something that's significantly greater than that right now?
You know, we've done $10 billion. we had, after the $61 billion cut wasn't even really debated on the Senate floor. And we've not had proposals debated on the Senate floor. We've given them now. We gave them the $61 billion. They never really reacted to it. And so I think that if you subtract the 10 that's done, that gives us $51 billion, and I certainly hope the Senate can accept that.
Do you see a government shutdown come midnight April 8th, or do you think that there will be compromise, and would that be a better solution to the immediate problem?
You know, I certainly hope so. And let me tell you where I would be willing to compromise on this number on discretionary spending is if there was a pledge on behalf of the president as well as Senate leadership to do something about entitlement spending. At the end of the day, we cannot balance this budget on the backs of discretionary spending programs. We really need to hit on the entitlements and reform those. And the earlier we do so, the less dramatic those reforms have to be. And so if we can get that, I'm more than willing to look at a lesser number on the discretionary side.
Okay. Colorado Representative Mike Coffman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Next, the world will be watching.